What morning does not start off with coffee? Welcome to summer Sunday morning with me. My name's Carrie. I have 6 children ranging in age from 10 weeks old to 18 years old. So we're getting our Sunday morning started with some coffee. I like to drink decaf coffee, and I recently discovered this one from Costco. I used to turn my nose up at it and I assumed that it was maybe not great quality because it came in a can. I don't know why I thought that. But it's actually water processed decaffeinated, which means they don't use chemicals to make it decaffeinated. And it's hard to find. It's quite expensive actually in the grocery store. So this is an amazing value. I really wish that I could be Costco's like official, I don't know, representative, because I feel like I talk about it too much. I probably need to get to more places because all I talk about is Costco. Anyways, my little sweet toddler is helping me make some coffee. She was having kind of a little bit of a hard moment, and I find that with her, as with a lot of kids, sometimes the best way to help them feel better is to include them in an activity. And she's such a sweet helper and loves to just help do everything. And there are times where I find myself like not wanting to slow down and include her in processes because I know it'll be messy or it'll take longer. But really, it's best to just slow down and take her along and, pop her up on the counter right next to me so she can see everything that's happening and let her help out too. So we are having kind of like an overnight oats for breakfast. It's just oats, a little bit of vanilla protein powder, some milk, some yogurt, and then some really delicious ripe peaches that our friends shared with us. They went to a peach orchard and picked some, and they just smell amazing, and they were so ripe, so I needed to use them up. So I cut them up and then mixed them up into this overnight oats. And then we had been at a friend's house the night before. We had like a cookout with some friends of mine from growing up. It was really fun. We got to get together with all of our kids, our husbands, and I brought fruit and cupcakes, and so there's some fruit left over, so I just popped it in the fridge when we got home, and I thought that'd be a great topping for our overnight oats. And then my toddler felt that in addition, the toppings that we should probably include were some sprinkles and some chocolate chips. And she was right. Everything is more delicious with sprinkles and chocolate chips. So normally on Sunday mornings, it can be a little bit of a scramble. Like we got to get the diaper bag packed, get everyone dressed and ready. So normally my husband and I will kind of trade off, like who's holding the baby, who's with the toddler, who's getting dressed, who's reminding the older kids to get some breakfast and get their clothes on and get together, who woke up our oldest and made sure that she was out of bed. So right now I have my toddler, and then my husband has the baby. And so we are working on getting some food into our bellies. Everything goes more smoothly when there's food in our bellies. And I don't know about you, but I'm someone who does not love food waste. And I feel like if I make myself a bowl and then make my toddler a bowl, she might eat like a couple bites of hers and then she'll want some of mine. And then I feel like I have more to eat than what I really want to eat. So I've kind of started over the years just making myself the serving size that I want and then sharing with my toddler. And if we need more, then we can get more later. But that way I don't feel this kind of pressure to finish everyone's food and nothing gets wasted. I don't know if anyone else is like that or can relate. So now my husband is getting dressed for church. I've got the baby and the toddler, and we're out in the family room now. We don't have a bouncy seat. We, in the past with other children, have had bouncy seats, and then we had a period of time, like a big gap of like 6 years where we didn't have babies, and I passed on all of our baby items. And then when we learned that we were having our younger children, I decided not to get a bouncy seat because I think the car seat, the infant car seat, serves the same function of kind of giving them a safe place to be a little bit propped up. And then that way I don't have 2 baby items to keep in our house. Again, we have 6 children. My husband works from home. I homeschool also. And then we're people with hobbies and interests, and it's amazing how quickly we can accumulate lots and lots of possessions, and that's just kind of more to manage, more to tidy up, more to clean. And so I'm always looking for ways to get away with fewer things. And so this is one instance where I was able to do that. I just used the infant car seat as a booster seat. And then normally in the mornings, I'm finding like glasses from the previous day that are half full with water, and then we had this water bottle that we had taken yesterday somewhere and it was full of water. So instead of just pouring that out down the drain, I like to walk around and water the plants. And I do kind of designate the weekend for plant watering. That just helps me remember, hey, it's time to water the plants. And generally I have the help of my husband on the weekends, more so than during the week when he's busy with his job. So that helps me to not overwater, because there have been times where I've overwatered and I've kind of damaged some of the orchids that I had by overwatering. They started to produce this sticky sap that then would drip down, and then it was attracting these tiny little ants, and then I gave us an ant problem. So it's better just to not overwater. Watering once a week is normally fine for most things, though now that it's hot, the potted plants outside could definitely use multiple waterings. So my boys are not super into the idea of overnight oats. So what I did, and I do this pretty often, is I just turn on our oven, and while it's preheating, I slide a bunch of pieces of bread right onto the oven rack, and then I set a timer for like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I just set the oven to 350, and then that way I can toast up, like 10 pieces of toast all in a minute, and then I slide them onto a plate, and then in this case I added some chocolate chips and some butter, and then spread it out once the chocolate chips were warm and melty. And then while my husband was watching the toddler and the baby, I ran upstairs real quick and got dressed. And then I was like filling up the diaper bag, making sure we had snacks, extra outfits, diapers, while my husband was getting the baby buckled. And then I find that there's this time before we leave, like some people are ready, some people aren't ready, and we're all hovering around the front door, kind of impeding progress. So I find that it works pretty well to send the people who are already ready right on outside. So it's like, okay, do you have everything you need? You got your shoes on? Great. Why don't you go wait on the front porch for us? Or why don't you head out to the van? And if you have an infant or even a young toddler, one of the things that I find it's just wonderful to pack to church is your wrap. So what seems to work best for our family is if I nurse the baby either right before we go to church, like be dressed and ready to go, but then sit down and nurse, or as soon as we get to church while everyone else is getting, checked in and finding our seats, and then the worship songs start. That's when I can go back to the nursery or the nursing room and feed the baby, and then I'll put her in the wrap and get her settled down, and then I can sit down after she's fully asleep and be part of the service and hear the sermon. Then we got home and we had some leftover whipped cream, and then I had a salad with some chicken and some roasted sweet potatoes. And then somebody at church gave me some donations for a local ministry called Value Life, which is kind of getting baby items to moms and their children, up through age 2. I can leave some information about that in the description box. So we delivered that, and then right before we left church, my toddler was playing in the woods with some of her friends, and she fell down and landed in a plant that just studded her clothes with hundreds of these really sharp burrs. So she was really uncomfortable. I was very glad that we had a second outfit for her. So we got her quickly changed, came home, got everyone lunch, got her down for her nap, fed the baby again, got her down for a nap, and then we loaded up a crib and a mattress. So through the Value Life program, I made a really good friend, and she needed a crib and a mattress, and I had a different friend who happened to have a crib and a mattress that they weren't using anymore. So we were able to, connect the need with the resource, and we delivered that, and that felt good. And then by the time we got home and got a few chores done, it was almost time to leave. We decided we were going to drop the boys off at youth group and then go over to the pool. There are just a few more weekends where the pool's open, and we haven't actually gotten to the pool that much this year. So we wanted to make use of our pass. So our boys had a friend come home with us after church, and then he would go with them to youth group and then join up with his family at the end of youth group. And that's something that makes having friends over really easy. We were always trying to find ways of like, when are we going to already be together, and then we can have some additional time for the kids to play, and then we're going to come back together later or cross paths later in the day, then we can kind of swap back. So youth group is pretty early at our church, and we're still trying to figure it out because like youth group's at 5, so that means we need to leave at 4:45. So the kids, no one's really quite ready for dinner because we normally have late lunches after church. But the thing with growing boys and teenagers is that they always need food. They always accept food. So I just made quickly some grilled cheese sandwiches with this really delicious white cheddar. It's called Cabot Extra Sharp, and we get that at Costco. Not a shock. So normally it's a huge block of cheese, and what I find is that it's helpful to just go ahead and cut it up into squares as soon as we get it, or whenever we first open it up and start using it, and then to store it in a plastic container with like a paper towel to kind of draw any moisture away from it and hopefully prevent the formation of mold. And then in addition to the grilled cheese sandwiches, we had a few more leftover strawberries, and then I added just a little bit of sugar, a little bit of mango, some frozen strawberries to give it a nice texture, and then some heavy cream and some milk, and I blended that up to go on the side. I love making kind of, I don't know, they're kind of like milkshakes, like fruit milkshakes almost, although there's not ice cream, but there are the components of ice cream in it, like the sugar and the cream and the milk and all of that. So that was the side for first dinner, that's what we call it. So it's like, normally if we have any evening activities, we have a lighter first dinner, or the kids do, and then they have their evening activity, and then we come home, and then it's time for everyone to eat a second dinner. That's how we do it at our house. It does kind of prolong the evening getting ready for bed process, but this just tends to be when especially the boys are hungry. So we were packing up, getting everything that we needed to head to the pool. So what my husband did is, since the pool was on the way to youth group, he dropped me and the babies off at youth group, at the pool, and then he proceeded on to take the boys to youth group, and then he came back and then met us at the pool. And some friends from our co-op, and they also go to our church, they met us there. So that always makes it way more fun. The pool, if you're worried about not getting to the pool, make sure you get a pool membership with friends, and then you can all meet up there. It's more fun for the parents, it's more fun for the kids, and I find that we get way more periods of swimming in before everyone's ready to leave when we have buddies there. I do think God had a good idea when he designated the 7th day for rest. So what does rest look like for a family with 6 kids? It's not laying around taking naps all day, but we do get to go to church together, and we get to do things that are restful for us, which is, spending time with friends and being outside, and, doing things for other people, like, delivering those clothes and delivering the crib, because we know that Jesus did good works on Sundays. And so I feel like that's probably a pretty safe example to follow. Not that we're doing anything really amazing like miracles like him, but we do just kind of find that you can have rest without actually having to lay down, just by putting aside the normal busyness and the things of life that you have to do every day, and just enjoying each other, enjoying creation and all of those things. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this video. I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and even to watch it all the way to the end. I would love it if you would be willing to subscribe to my channel if you found it interesting or enjoyable in any way and you feel like supporting me. So thanks again for stopping by, and I really hope that I get to see you in the next video.